A warning about a popular product in many of our laundry rooms. Procter & Gamble has recalled more than 8 million packages of its popular liquid laundry detergent pods. They say that a bag defect could make the colorful packs accessible to children and others. David says that you should take precautions because the laundry pods are a severe poisoning risk.
Every 44 minutes, a poison control center in this country answers a call about a child exposed to laundry pods. Last year, one company recalled 8.2 million bags of them. Tide, Gain, Ace, Ariel, all under one roof, all pulled because the packaging could split open in a child's hands. That's not even the most dishonest brand on this list. One detergent built its entire identity on the word purity. Independent lab testing found it carried the highest level of a probable carcinogen out of every major brand tested. 7 detergents you need to stop buying. 3 that actually deserve the shelf space. Brand 1 is already sitting in your laundry room. Brand 1, Tide. Picture the orange bottle sitting on the shelf above your washing machine right now, or the little blue and orange pod sitting in a tub within reach of a toddler's curious hands. This is the detergent that built decades of trust as the default choice. The brand parents grabbed without thinking twice, the one that became so synonymous with clean clothes that people say the brand name instead of the word detergent itself. Here is the reveal. In April of 2024, Procter & Gamble recalled 8.2 million bags of Tide, Gain, Ace, and Ariel pods after the Consumer Product Safety Commission found the flexible film bags could split open near the zipper track, exposing children and other vulnerable people to ingestion risk. That recall sits on top of a much larger, ongoing pattern. The National Poison Data System logged over 36,000 laundry pod exposure calls across a recent 3-year period, with 87% involving children under 6 years old and 6% resulting in a serious medical outcome, translating to more than 2,000 preventable emergency room visits. On top of the safety recall, Tide is also facing a separate class action lawsuit alleging the pods are defective for an entirely different reason, leaving mysterious blue and white stains on clothing despite premium marketing claims. That case has already survived a motion to dismiss. Looks like the trusted default, reads like a product recalled for the exact hazard parents were told not to worry about. Here's the fact that makes it worse. Every 44 minutes, a poison control center somewhere in this country answers a call specifically about laundry pod exposure. That is not a rare, isolated incident. That is a clock running in the background of nearly every household that keeps pods within reach. For the parent who bought pods specifically because they felt more convenient and pre-measured than liquid detergent, this is what you actually brought into your home. A product recalled for the precise packaging failure that turns convenience into risk. The one carve-out worth naming is Tide's liquid detergent, sold in a standard, non-squeezable bottle. Removing the pod format removes the ingestion risk entirely, while keeping the same cleaning formula loyal users already trust. Convenient format. Recalled for the one flaw that mattered most. But Tide got caught by a packaging defect the company could point to and fix. The next brand on this list got caught by its own marketing claim, contradicted by a lab result it never saw coming. Brand 2, Arm & Hammer. Picture the bright orange box sitting on the laundry shelf, the one stamped with the phrase, "the standard of purity," a slogan the brand has used for generations to signal that this is the clean, simple, trustworthy option. This is the detergent bought specifically by people trying to avoid harsh chemicals. Shoppers who saw the word purity on the label and assumed that was a promise, not just a marketing phrase somebody in an office decided sounded reassuring. Here is the reveal. Independent testing conducted through Bureau Veritas found that Arm & Hammer Clean Burst laundry detergent contained 4.28 parts per million of 1,4-dioxane, the highest level recorded among every major detergent brand tested in that same study, higher than Tide Original, higher than Gain, higher than every competitor sitting on the same shelf. In 2024, the Environmental Protection Agency finalized its risk determination on 1,4-dioxane, concluding the chemical presents unreasonable risk to human health, including cancer risk from both inhalation and dermal exposure, along with documented liver toxicity concerns. Looks like the purity option. Reads like the highest contamination level in the entire category once the lab results came back. Here is the ownership fact that matters. 1,4-dioxane isn't an ingredient any company adds on purpose. It's an unintentional byproduct created during the manufacturing of the very ethoxylated cleaning agents, ingredients with names like Loreth or Peg, that make a detergent effective in the first place. A brand calling itself the standard of purity had every opportunity to test for this and reformulate. The data suggests it didn't move fast enough. For the shopper who chose this brand specifically because purity was printed right there on the box, this is what you actually bought. The detergent carrying the highest level of a probable human carcinogen out of every brand independently tested that year. The one carve-out worth naming is Arm & Hammer's Sensitive Skin Free and Clear formula, which tested lower in the same independent study, though still measurably present. If brand loyalty runs deep, that version carries less exposure than the original Clean Burst scent. Promised purity. Delivered the highest contamination on the shelf. The next brand on this list didn't get caught by an independent lab. It got caught by its own government regulator, watching a bacteria grow inside the bottle while it sat on a shelf this year. Brand 3. Woolite Picture. The purple bottle reserved for the one load nobody wants to ruin. The sweater, the delicates, the item you actually paid attention to at checkout instead of grabbing whatever was cheapest on the shelf. This is the detergent bought specifically because it promises gentleness. People reach for it when a regular detergent feels too harsh for a fabric that actually matters to them. Trusting that a brand built entirely around delicate fabric care has earned a little extra faith compared to whatever sits in the everyday, all-purpose bottle next to it. Here is the reveal. In March of 2025, Reckitt issued a recall of specific lots of Woolite Delicates detergent, sold exclusively through Amazon, due to risk of exposure to bacteria. This is not a decades-old ingredient controversy resurfacing years later in a documentary. This recall happened this year, on a product marketed specifically as the gentle, careful choice for a shopper's most delicate and often most expensive garments. The recall covered specific lot numbers and reorder codes, meaning bottles matching those exact identifiers were still sitting in homes at the moment the recall was issued. Looks gentle. Reads contaminated the moment the recall notice actually went out to the public. Here is the fact that makes this land harder than a typical recall. Bacterial contamination inside a liquid detergent does not stay contained to the bottle sitting under the sink. It transfers directly onto the fabric during the wash cycle itself, meaning the exact clothing this brand promised to protect and treat with extra care is the same clothing that came into direct contact with whatever contamination triggered the recall in the first place. The one product bought to be safer ended up being the one carrying the actual risk. For the shopper who paid extra specifically because they trusted this brand with their most delicate, most expensive garments, this is what you actually brought into your closet. A recalled product in the one category of laundry where a shopper assumed the extra cost justified extra safety, not less of it. The one carve-out worth naming is Woolite's standard formula, sold through traditional retail channels rather than the Amazon exclusive lots specifically named in the recall. Different supply chain, different manufacturing batch, and no documented connection to the contamination named in this particular recall notice. Bought for extra care, recalled for contamination instead. But Woolite's failure was something you could actually see written on a recall notice and react to immediately, checking a lot number against a list. The next brand on this list never announces anything at all. It just leaves something behind in the air, long after the wash cycle has already ended and the clothes are folded away. Brand 4. Downy Picture. The pastel bottle promising softness, the little capful poured into the machine for one reason alone, that specific, familiar scent that lingers on sheets and towels for days after the load is finished. This is the product people add purely for the smell. Not for cleaning power, not for stain removal, not for anything measurable, just for that specific fragrance that makes laundry feel finished, fresh, and properly taken care of, the way it always has in every commercial for the brand. Here is the reveal. A University of Washington study analyzed the exhaust released from clothes dryers, running loads treated with scented laundry products, and identified more than 25 volatile organic compounds present in the emissions, including acetaldehyde and benzene, both classified by the Environmental Protection Agency as hazardous air pollutants with no established safe level of exposure. That exhaust does not stay contained inside the machine or the laundry room. It vents directly outside the home, into shared neighborhood air, into the same space where children play in a backyard or a neighbor hangs laundry of their own. Looks like fresh air. Reads like an unregulated pollutant once researchers actually measured what was leaving the vent. Here is the ownership fact that explains why this keeps happening. Fragrance formulas are legally protected as trade secrets across the entire industry, meaning companies are not required to disclose the specific chemical components used to create a scent, even when some of those components become hazardous compounds once heated and released through a dryer vent during normal daily use. For the person who loved the smell so much they associated that specific fragrance with the idea of clean itself, this is what you actually released into the air outside your home. A mixture of volatile compounds regulators already classify as hazardous, vented with zero warning label printed anywhere on the bottle. The one carve-out worth naming is Downy's Free and Gentle line, formulated without the dye and heavy perfume load carried by the standard scented versions. It will not eliminate every volatile compound identified in the study, but it meaningfully reduces the fragrance chemical load driving those findings in the first place. Smells like clean. Vents like a pollutant nobody disclosed. Downy's damage happens quietly, in the air, with no label anywhere to warn anyone standing nearby. The next brand on this list did not hide anything in the air at all. It hid something in plain sight, behind a green leaf printed right on the front of the bottle. Brand 5, Gain. Picture the bright green bottle sitting on the shelf, decorated with stylized flowers, leaves, and butterflies, practically shouting that this is the environmentally responsible choice sitting between two more conventional-looking bottles. This is the detergent bought by people specifically trying to make a better choice for their household and for the planet at the same time. Shoppers who saw that packaging and assumed the company behind it had actually earned the imagery printed across the front rather than simply borrowing the aesthetic of an eco-friendly product without the formula to back it up. Here is the reveal. A proposed class action lawsuit filed against Procter & Gamble alleges that Gain Original Aroma Boost, marketed and packaged specifically to appear environmentally friendly, tested at 3.32 parts per million of 1,4-dioxane in independent lab testing conducted by Bureau Veritas. The lawsuit describes this as greenwashing, arguing the packaging's flowers, leaves, and butterflies were designed to suggest a clean, plant-based formula, while the actual lab results told a very different story. According to the complaint, nowhere on the packaging does the product disclose the presence of dioxane, a compound the EPA classifies as likely to be carcinogenic to humans, with documented risk from inhalation, skin absorption, and contaminated drinking water exposure once it washes down the drain and into local water systems. Looks like the responsible choice. Reads like a lawsuit alleging the packaging misled the exact shopper trying to do the right thing. Here is the ingredient reality underneath the imagery. The lawsuit notes the dioxane forms as a byproduct tied to harsh petroleum-based cleaning agents like sodium lauryl sulfate, an ingredient listed in small print on the back label simply as a cleaning agent, with no indication of the byproduct it can generate during manufacturing. The pleasant packaging up front and the technical listing on the back are telling two very different stories about what this product actually is. For the shopper who paid a little more, or went out of their way, specifically because the packaging promised an environmentally conscious formula, this is what you actually bought. A detergent facing active litigation over the exact claim that convinced you to choose it over a plainer, more honestly packaged competitor sitting right next to it. The one carve-out worth naming is Gain's Free and Clear line, which uses a simpler formula without the added fragrance boosters tied to the original Aroma Boost version named specifically in the lawsuit. It won't erase the broader dioxane concerns shared across the category, but it removes one layer of the complaint entirely. Promised the planet, delivered a lawsuit instead. Gain's problem was a green label that didn't match the lab results underneath it. The next brand on this list doesn't bother with imagery at all. Its failure is spelled out in plain text, in an ingredient list most shoppers scroll past without ever actually reading. Brand 6, Persil. Picture the bright red bottle sitting on a European-inspired shelf display, marketed as the deep, clean, premium alternative to whatever domestic brand you grew up using. This is the detergent bought by people chasing a step up. Shoppers who associate the brand with imported quality, assuming a premium price tag and a reputation built overseas must come with a cleaner, more carefully considered formula than the everyday bottle sitting one shelf down. Here is the reveal. Published ingredient disclosures for multiple Persil formulas list hexylcinnamol, benzyl salicylate, linalool, geraniol, alpha, isomethyl, ionone, and limonene, all recognized fragrance allergens flagged specifically because they appear frequently enough in contact dermatitis cases to require disclosure under international labeling standards. Alongside those fragrance components, formulas also list optical brighteners and methylisothiazolinone, a preservative repeatedly linked in clinical dermatology studies to allergic contact dermatitis, skin sensitization, and in some documented cases, respiratory irritation with prolonged exposure. Looks premium. Reads like a chemistry exam once you actually try to pronounce what's sitting inside the bottle. Read the ingredients printed on a typical formula: anionic surfactants, non-ionic surfactants, phosphonates, polycarboxylates, and a fragrance blend containing at least 6 separately disclosed allergens. That is not a simple, considered formula. That is a long list of components stacked on top of each other, each one individually flagged somewhere in dermatology literature as a potential trigger for sensitive skin. For the shopper who paid the premium price specifically expecting a more carefully formulated, higher quality product, this is what you actually bought. A detergent carrying more individually disclosed allergens than most of the budget competitors sitting one aisle over, wrapped in packaging that never mentions any of them up front. The one carve-out worth naming is Persil's free and sensitive line, formulated without added fragrance and marketed specifically for reactive skin. Removing the fragrance blend removes the largest cluster of disclosed allergens from the formula entirely, leaving a noticeably shorter and more honest ingredient list behind. Premium price. Allergen-heavy formula. Persil buried its warnings inside a long ingredient list most shoppers never bother reading past the first few words. The next brand on this list doesn't even get read that closely because nobody assumes the cheapest bottle on the shelf needs a second look. Brand 7. Purex. Picture the plain, unassuming bottle sitting at the bottom of the shelf, priced lower than nearly everything surrounding it, the bottle people grab specifically because it's the cheapest option that still says detergent on the label. This is the detergent bought without a second thought. Shoppers who assume a budget price automatically means a simple, harmless formula, reasoning that a brand without flashy marketing or premium packaging probably isn't hiding anything worth worrying about in the first place. Here is the reveal. Independent ingredient reviews consistently score Purex's standard formulas poorly across nearly every category already covered in this video, flagging undisclosed synthetic fragrance blends, artificial dyes, and optical brighteners. The exact combination linked earlier to skin irritation and environmental persistence once it washes down the drain. Unlike the brands with an active lawsuit or a named recall, Purex's issue is quieter, a consistently low independent safety grade across nearly every version of the product line, sustained over years of repeated testing rather than a single flagged incident. Looks harmless because it's cheap. Reads like the same undisclosed fragrance and dye combination found across nearly every brand already covered tonight, just without the premium price tag attached to it. Here is the pricing reality worth sitting with. A shopper, paying less than half of what a premium brand costs, is often getting the exact same undisclosed fragrance and dye category ingredients, just without a recognizable name, a lawsuit, or a recall drawing attention to it. The lower price didn't buy a simpler formula, it just bought less scrutiny. For the budget-conscious shopper who assumed the cheapest bottle on the shelf couldn't possibly be hiding anything worth worrying about, this is what you actually bought. The same undisclosed fragrance and dye combination sitting in nearly every brand covered in this video, just without anyone bothering to test it as closely. The one carve-out worth naming is Purex's free and clear formula, which strips out the added fragrance and dye entirely, leaving a shorter, more honest ingredient list at the same low price point the brand is already known for. Cheapest bottle on the shelf. Same undisclosed ingredients as the rest of them. Okay, stop for a second. That's 7 brands, 7 bottles under 7 different sinks, and every single one followed the exact same playbook. Step 1. A brand builds trust the slow way, over decades, over a familiar scent or a promise printed right on the box. Step 2. A bigger company buys it, or it just gets big enough that shortcuts start looking profitable. Step 3. The marketing claims stay exactly the same. Pure, green, gentle, premium. Not one word on the label changes. Step 4. The formulation budget quietly drops, one ingredient swap at a time, while nobody's watching closely enough to notice. Step 5. Accountability walks out the door entirely until a lawsuit, a recall, or a lab result forces it back in. That is not 7 separate stories. That is one story told 7 times. Safe pick 1. Molly's Suds. Where others sell a green label with nothing behind it, this sells a formula built from actual grief and a refusal to guess. The origin story here is personal in a way none of the previous 10 brands can claim. Founder Monica Leonard, a pediatric nurse, began searching for answers after losing her daughter, Molly. That search led her to a hard realization. Skin isn't a real barrier against the chemicals hiding inside conventional detergent. She built the company that should have already existed. Here is the verification. The formula is Safer Choice and ISO 16128 compliant, standards overseen by outside bodies, not self-awarded. It is also independently listed on EWG's database as a low-concern product across skin irritation and cancer risk categories, the same database that flagged several brands earlier in this video. Here is the ingredient proof. Read the label on the original powder. Sodium carbonate, sodium bicarbonate, magnesium sulfate, and a plant-derived scent where applicable. 4 ingredients. No synthetic fragrance, no dye, no formaldehyde, no 1,4-dioxane, no optical brighteners. The honest limitation matters here. The powder formula doesn't dissolve as easily in cold water as a liquid detergent, and some users with very hard water report needing a slightly higher dose to get the same result. This isn't the fastest, most convenient option on the shelf. Price and availability sit in the accessible range. A bag typically runs between $15 and $20 and lasts for months, sold through the brand's own site and increasingly through major retailers. There's something disarming about a company built specifically so no other parent has to wonder what was actually in the bottle. The next brand on this list didn't need a personal loss to get the formula right. It needed a dermatologist's clipboard and a lab that had nothing to gain by lying. Safe pick 2. Attitude. Where others bury a fragrance blend behind one vague word on the label, this names exactly what isn't in the bottle and backs it with outside proof. The origin story starts in Quebec, where the founders built the company around a published, restricted ingredient list, refusing entire categories most competitors still use freely, years before clean labeling became a shelf category anyone chased. Here is the verification. Formulas are dermatologist-tested and hypoallergenic, independently confirmed free of parabens, phthalates, SLS, SLES, and synthetic fragrance. That's a documented, checked list, not a claim printed on the front of a bottle with nothing behind it. Here is the performance proof. Attitude's laundry formulas carry low aquatic toxicity ratings alongside the skin safety claims, a detail most detergent brands never test for or disclose, meaning the runoff breaks down safely instead of accumulating in the same water systems flagged earlier in this video. The honest limitation is scent-related. Because the brand avoids synthetic fragrance almost entirely, the natural scent profile is much subtler than what a shopper used to a heavily perfumed detergent might expect walking in. Price and availability land in the accessible mid-range. Bottles typically run between $12 and $20, sold at major grocery chains and pharmacies, not restricted to a specialty storefront. The next brand on this list doesn't have a dermatologist's clipboard behind it. It has something the federal government itself decided was worth an award. Safe pick 3. Drops. Where others chase a certification for one product launch, this has held the same federal recognition for over 15 years without needing to reformulate to keep it. The origin story traces back to 2008, when Drops became one of the first laundry pod brands on the market and immediately pursued the EPA's Safer Choice certification, formerly designed for the environment, at a time when almost no competitor bothered. Here is the verification. Drops has held that Safer Choice certification continuously since 2008, alongside certified B Corp status and Leaping Bunny cruelty-free certification, 3 independent audits stacked on top of each other rather than one badge a company awarded itself. Here is the ingredient proof. Every ingredient is listed on Cleangredients, a third-party database of components pre-approved to meet the EPA's Safer Choice standard, free of phthalates, chlorine, phosphates, dyes, parabens, and sulfates. The honest limitation is packaging related. The dissolvable pod format, while plastic-free and pre-measured, isn't ideal for households worried about young children handling anything resembling a pod, even one built without harsh chemicals inside it. Price and availability sit in the mid to upper range. A pack typically runs between $18 and $25, sold through the brand's site and select retailers. 15 years of the same federal seal is not a marketing claim. It's a track record nobody can fake. 10 brands. 7 with recalls, lawsuits, and federal findings sitting behind the label. 3 that never needed any of it, because the shortcut was never on the table to begin with. Here's the pattern worth carrying out of this video. Price was never the tell. Packaging was never the tell. The tell was always whether a company had to get caught before it told the truth, or whether it told the truth from the very first bottle. So, which one is sitting in your laundry room right now? Subscribe and check the label before your next load. 7 brands earned their spot the hard way. 3 earned theirs by never needing to.